Crypto Crow, thank you so much for coming out here.
Yeah.
You're in Chiraverdi. You and your wife just moved to Tampa about 8 months ago.
8 months, yeah.
So this is why I keep referring to Tampa, St. Pete area as Blockchain Alley, because there are so many crypto long, crypto-centric digital asset players. Kathy Woods, ARC's moved to St. Pete. There's so many people.
I didn't know that.
Oh, her whole team's here, man. Huh. Right up the road. And there's a big fund that just opened up that's investing in Bitcoin. So there's a lot going on in the local area. So welcome.
Yeah,
I've been
thanks.
here for 20 some odd years, 15 years, and I really love the area.
Yeah.
So
Everybody kept telling us to move to St. Pete. Well, don't go over there. Just go to St. Pete.
Yeah.
You'll love it.
Yeah, it might be worth doing some investigation here because I don't think it's going to have that same kind of vibe that you were referring to earlier. Yeah. I don't get the vibe here at all. It's a pretty cool vibe. All the neighbors like me.
Yeah, I bet they do. You're a likable guy.
Yeah, thank you, man.
You're a likable guy.
We met, by the way, just to show you the power of the world we were living in today, what I call the world of transparency and interconnectivity. We met
a Diddy party.
My party. No Diddy party. I ain't ever been to a Diddy party, and I'm not going to one.
It's got to be the joke of the day now, right? I mean, come on. Everybody's crazy.
Yeah.
No, your birthday party, and it was a good time.
Yeah, it was a birthday party, and I think about 30 or 35, 40 people came to this party through social media. I had never met them before. I had not met you. We had an opportunity to speak for 10 or 15 minutes at the party after a drink or two.
A few.
And you were teasing me. I'm like, okay, let's figure out this Cardano thing. You can educate me on Cardano, but let's do it outside the party. So welcome here. And I'd love you to tell me about your journey. Like, how did you get here? Where'd you come from? And what the heck are you doing? Like, what's the role?
Well, when I figure out what I'm doing, I'll definitely let you know. Right now, I'm just kind of sifting through the weeds, trying to find the future, right? So, I used to actually be an MMA fight promoter. And when I got out of that, I was pulled into the mortgage business, and I did that. I did each of those things for about 6 years. And as I was building a new mortgage branch office, I discovered crypto. And I'll tell the short version of the story, but for over a decade, all my uncles were trying to get me to go on a camping trip, right? And I'm always too busy, right? And so finally, they convinced me to go on this camping trip with them. And I took my stepson, and I thought it would be a good bonding time. And he got to meet all my uncles and all my cousins, which is literally like a forest of trees, right? Like, I'm the tallest in the family, but all my uncles range 6'6" to 6'10". And my cousins are all like around 6'8", 6'10". I mean, it's just insane. I don't think we're allowed to go to all-you-can-eat buffets anywhere.
I would not be welcomed in the family.
and so we went, and my Uncle Mike basically told me about how he has this aortic problem. It was like an expanding valve that he could basically be dead at any time. And if I do get a little emotional, I do get a little emotional telling us all the time. But anytime somebody says, where did you get started? This is where it is.
Yeah.
And he was explaining to me how he was in dividend stocks and that he knew that he could pass away at any moment. And that, the surgery he needed to have, they said it was such a risky surgery, they wanted to wait until it was bad enough to really make sure that he needed it. And he had told me about dividend stocks, and that if he passed away today, that, my aunt and my cousins would all be taken care of off of the dividends. And he's like, you really need to consider this. And so I did. And I started researching dividend stocks. And then I discovered ICOs and Ethereum and Bitcoin and all of this whole world. And he did actually pass away shortly after in China, actually, at dinner. He just dropped dead at dinner. And so what's funny is that I've taken all of that, and I found guys like Ian Bellina and Superman, and I was just watching a lot of their stuff, but I really started reading the white papers and understanding the technology behind decentralization and smart contracts, and a lot of it I didn't even understand at the time. And I woke up one morning with an epiphany, and I remember I woke her up, and she's like, what's wrong? And I was manic, and I was kind of like half crying and half out of it, and I'm like, I get it. Nobody really knows this, but I actually created DeFi before there was DeFi. And I spent a long time writing a white paper for this, and I called it a universal wallet. And nobody knew what the hell I was talking about. I was on the Bitcoin forums trying to talk about it. I was all over the place, and nobody knew what the hell I was getting at. I even did an animated video to explain the concept. And, and that's what happened. It all stemmed from that, 4 a.m. freak out wake up where everything made sense to me. When I was reading all of this stuff, I just didn't understand. And, and that's really how I got started. I basically turned $3,000. I maxed out 3 credit cards, built an Ethereum mining rig, and I would invest what I'd mined up in Ethereum. And I basically turned $3,000 into $90,000 in about 60 days. And then I started a YouTube channel, basically thinking that my daughters would watch it and learn something.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
But I started amassing a following. I was getting 2,500 subscribers a day, and it was just blowing up. And so I just started sharing my journey. Everything that I exposed myself to, everything I learned, everything I did, I put on the channel, and I call it as I see it, and it is what it is. And that's kind of what got me into this whole thing back in 2017.
That was 17? So you were doing that where? Where'd you start?
Cincinnati.
Yeah, and then you moved down to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
What's changed in the last, call it, 8 years, 7 years? Have you seen a big change, or has it just gotten more opportunities?
I think
noise?
The change is coming. More noise for sure, because I think that there are a lot more people with a lot more money that are in the space that know how to play the people. I feel like there's a lot more paid narratives in crypto marketing, and I think that there's a lot more crap that's thrown out into the market, hoping that people are able to turn a quick dollar on the ignorance of newcomers, right? And I see a lot more of that today than we saw back during the ICO boom. And I feel like every market
That's very
cycle.
interesting. So you think there's more BS projects post FTX Celsius?
Well, I mean, heck, even just over the last 6 years in general, I think after the ICO boom, everybody saw how easy it was to just basically post up an idea and an Ethereum address. And the FOMO was so strong that people would just throw Ethereum at an address, get some tokens back, and those tokens would 100x in 90 days or 2 months, 6 months, whatever. And it kind of programmed that kind of, I guess you could call it a crypto generation, right? Like if every generation is a cycle of 4 years, every generation or every Bitcoin cycle draws in a new generation of newcomers, of new people that are wanting to make a quick buck about, using technology they don't really understand. And so they have to be led. And the problem is that, I think that's been recognized. And then cycle after cycle, there's more paid narratives being presented to project a light on this crappy project that's meant to rug pull on everybody once they've peaked out locally, and all of that. And so if there's anything that I've learned and what's different is it's exactly that. I think that they take these narratives, or they create these narratives around, like right now, it used to be ICOs, and then the next market was DeFi, right? And now this market seems to be booming because of meme tokens and things. And it's just like, because crypto is still in an infancy stage where we're not seeing a lot of these major use cases that are available to the general public yet to draw people in. They're drawing them in with flashy little pet rocks and flashy little things that they can easily market to draw people in on the idea that they're going to turn $1 into 100 overnight. And so, that has become a problem, and it's made me a lot more risk averse to a lot of these things that I otherwise, back in 2017 fell in love with.
Risk averse from you holding those, or risk averse from doing what you do publicly?
Both. Generally, if I don't hold it myself, I don't generally talk about it. Typically the first video I would do on YouTube is, I just bought however many thousands of this token and this is why, right? I don't generally promote, unless it's a paid segment, which I do. But I tell everybody when I do a paid segment, look, they paid me, how much they paid me is in the, down at the bottom. You can check it out. And these are my honest thoughts, good or bad. I do paid segments all the time that I don't like the project. And that's the thing with me, is that I call it as I see it. And nowadays I am very, very skeptical of everything. And, you know, there was one point where I was literally offered $1 million in tokens to become an advisor and an ambassador for a project. And I hired an attorney who had a former FBI background check guy on his staff. And I'm like, this is such a big deal. Yeah. I don't want to, there's something weird.
Right. Why am I getting offered $1 million?
Exactly. And well, it's because it's me.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But no, they discovered that, you know, these guys all lived in a very gray area, you know, in all of their businesses. One of them had a high-end dog rent to own business. And for like really expensive breeds. And like, if you missed a payment, they would come take the dog, you know, and it's just really weird stuff. And I'm like, no, thanks. You know? So, and I just feel like so many people now are all about that. Everybody looks at crypto as a way to make a quick buck, and they're going to do what they did to Coinbase and Binance, they being the government, SEC, whoever. This is why I'm so bullish, this marketplace, because they have basically sanctioned Binance and Coinbase. I mean, they're under their purview now. They're like, they're little. Hasn't Coinbase always though?
But now it's very documented, right? Like, so you have the ability to go look inside. I like that.
I do too.
It's a healthy thing for a marketplace. You cannot continue having these FTXs. And, like, it's just ridiculous, right? But I think the bottleneck where the regulators tap into this type of Ponzi scheme where you're paying influencers to push, dude, it's at the influencer. That is the weak link. Like, you influencers, like, you notice I never talk about anything. Only what I purchase. I don't make recommendations. I barely talk about Node 40 because I don't want my show to be, hey, he's an influencer. I'm an educator, period. That's it. I'm sharing my view why I would take a really large position in Bitcoin and continue to assimilate more and more Bitcoin, because I see the deeper I go into it, the better opportunity. And so when I see something like when I meet you and you go, hey, you seem like a sensible human being. Hey, you don't know enough about Cardano. I'm like, okay, well, educate me on Cardano. There's a lot of projects I wouldn't even meet with anybody on. But he's been around a long time. He speaks very well. And I'll tell you the real reason that before you go into your pitch, so you can educate me, the reason that I haven't been interested in Cardano is I have been building businesses my whole life since I was 26 years old, and I've seen really, 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 really smart people, mostly academia, going to the best schools in the world, and they got it wrong, man. They couldn't execute a business strategy. They were brilliant technically, but it took a guy like me, a street fighter, and who was a strategist who understood how to violate particular weak spots in a value chain and then exploit that gap and then get into a position. And when I first heard him, Charles, right, I was like, oh, he's just too smart. He's an academia, and I got to tell you, like, I had a conversation the other night disagreeing with a bunch of maxis because they were like, hey, this needs to be peer-to-peer, and I'm like, maybe your boy Satoshi got it wrong, dude. Maybe he's like every other technologist that I've ever met who leads with their vision but forgets the market.
You think Satoshi was one man?
I don't know. But what I do know is that his peer-to-peer white paper never said it was going to happen in 2020. Like, what if that peer-to-peer thing, his vision was, hey, this happens in 2050, and now we have a bunch of maxis going, we need to be buying potato chips of Bitcoin. That is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. Why would you use Bitcoin to buy potato chips? It'd be like, I'm going to use a bar of gold to buy some potato chips. Yet I think gold's going to be my inflation hedge, and I'm buying potato chips. And then you hear people, well, I immediately go back in and buy the Bitcoin that I bought for the potato chips. I'm like, why would you do that? I'm greasing the system. You're not greasing the system on potato chips, dude. Like, it took Visa and MasterCard 52 years to get adoption in credit cards across the board. And they had to have governments change rules for them and do consumer protection, chargeback management issues, 52 years. To think that we are going to have a money or a technology replace a system that has been operating for 120 years in a decade is just...
In a decade.
Yeah, right. Like it's all about time, right? So all I'm saying is there's a lot of like, I think Satoshi was brilliant, but if he was a technologist, like most technologists, they lead with their vision. Mm-hmm. But that does not necessarily make it true, right? Mm-hmm. Like there are stages to doing a strategy to actually go into a market and break it up. You don't, and the Bitcoiners have led with a big old spear in the eye of everyone. IMF, Bank of England, the Fed, everybody's the enemy. I just don't think that's the best pitch. Thus, why I get so comfortable today. Today, I think, at least on Bitcoin is a safer bet today to buy than it ever has been.
Like I agree.
It's cheaper than $6,000, man. Because you didn't have BlackRock. You didn't have this marketing. The marketing hasn't even started yet.
You're right. That's true.
The brochures aren't even finished, right? So, but walk me through Cardano, because that was really I thought the guy was brilliant, and now I haven't watched him in 3 years or so, but...
I'm interviewing him tomorrow, actually, and it'll be an interesting one for you to because I've got a whole list of questions for him that dive into, third generation, into fourth generation at midnight, and just a lot of stuff. And you're right. You're 100% right on that. And it's something that I've addressed, where I've actually done videos called Decoding Charles Hoskinson, where I have to go through and watch what he says and put it into layman's terms for people to understand, because he just goes on these very long-winded. He's very smart, and he thinks in a paradigm that most of us don't comprehend whatsoever, right? And it's very difficult for the general investor or the general person that wants to get involved to really understand what the hell he's talking about. We just hear, "Wow, he's a really smart guy. I guess I'll buy some." Yeah. Right? But they don't. It's a little bit like going to see a doctor. Depending on the level of your problem, right?
I become very submissive.
Right.
If I have stage 2 cancer, dude, I'm walking in. Hey, bro, I do not need to become a cancer expert. What I need to know is that you're a cancer expert and you're going to take care of me.
Right.
That's all I need to know.
Exactly.
I drove my car down here. I do not have a clue how that car runs.
Right.
I don't. I get on airplanes all the time. I don't know how they run, but I trust that it's going to work, right?
I think the key thing that people need to understand about Charles, though, is he's not necessarily speaking to you. He's speaking to the developers that are on a similar level.
Yeah.
He's catering to the people that he wants to develop use cases on the blockchain. So a lot of times he's educating people on what the blockchain's capable of, what direction it's going, milestones in development, what's coming next, right? He's speaking to the developer, not us. And it's funny because this morning I set off. I've got a project where I'm going to create a new website specifically for us. Basically, it doesn't have a name or anything yet. It's just, because if you go to like IOHK or Cardano Foundation, you go to any of those websites, it's all really like deep.
Yep.
The white papers, the peer-reviewed documentation, a lot of that stuff is gobbledygook that might as well be in hieroglyphics for most people. And so that's not capturing people. What we're seeing today capture people is, look at this funny meme coin and it's on this blockchain, and that's what's drawing people in. Oh, number go up, so I'm interested in that. They don't really care about the tech or even the problems of the tech.
They draw some people in.
It draws some people in, not guys like you,
exactly.
but there are a lot more people that have $100 to throw into some shit coin hoping for a 10 or 100x than there are guys like you, right? And so that's why a lot of that stuff is targeted towards them, and it's a marketing thing.
There's a lot of people that buy lottery tickets.
Exactly.
I don't buy them.
Exactly. I don't either. So, when you're talking about a comparison between Bitcoin and Cardano, so why would somebody take an interest in Cardano? Well, one of the first things to me is very, very important, aside from number go up, right, is the decentralized nature of it, okay? And Cardano, and I tell everybody this on a regular basis, Cardano is not being developed to be a meme coin hub. It's not being developed to be an NFT base, right? It's being developed for enterprise level, international commerce, and pretty much anything else, right? It's an example, Dubai, is now they're doing a test using Cardano for basically creating a database of, using Midnight apparently, basically creating a crime database so that the police and all of the crime fighters in a particular market or whatever are able to go into this database and basically cross-link data points related to different crime scenes or different crimes and things like that, right? Not a huge use case, but it's a move in the right direction. U.S. states have been reaching out to Cardano Foundation asking, can they create some form of blockchain so that they can start establishing a transparent voting system on the blockchain utilizing Cardano or Midnight? And they're working on that, right? There are so many much bigger use cases in play. World Mobile Token, connecting the unconnected, using these big...
That was his real push, right? Was the unbanked, the untouched.
Yeah, to some degree, yeah.
I mean, that's what I remember was...
They put a lot of money into Africa because there's so many resources in Africa that are basically, everybody's wanting a piece, but nobody knows how to tap into it. And so, yeah, they've been building an infrastructure in different parts of Africa. And not only that, but opening schools to train, the developers in Ethiopia and in other parts to actually build on the Cardano blockchain so that they can keep track of import exports and their crops and all sorts of different things, right? That's just another little use case, though.
So you said that it was decentralized. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really fully, I want to just challenge that. When you say decentralized, they tell me that Ethereum is decentralized. Do you think Ethereum is decentralized? Because I think there's somebody that is the head of that if Charles Hoskins was to die on an airplane tomorrow morning,
it would still keep going.
Would it?
Yep.
It wouldn't impact the price.
No. Well, I mean, it might impact the price temporarily, but I think that the bulk of... Now, if you were to said this in 2020... I would say, I'm not sure.
What's his name? Who's the Ethereum cat?
Vitalik Buterin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He dies on an airplane, what happens?
Nothing.
Right. See, I disagree with that. I think Ethereum and Cardano would get crushed.
Really?
In value. Yeah, dude. They're I haven't ever heard anyone other than Charles speak.
True.
There's only one leader. If I die, you're pretty sure Cardano Digital ain't going to be it.
Well, that's part of the decentralized notion of Cardano is it's being developed so that there is no need for a leader.
Okay, but
the leader is the community and the token holders that are able to vote through consensus and through the algorithms in the system.
But I want to send
can make those decisions.
I want to send a letter of inquiry to the head of ADA. Mm-hmm. Do I have an address that I can send that to?
Technically, I don't think so. I don't think it really works that way.
But the Department of Justice could contact Charles.
Well,
and send him a letter, right?
Sure, Charles.
Yeah. So I'm trying to understand what decentralized means. Because when I think what it means is I look at Bitcoin and go, okay, decentralized, there is no human being and no address to send anything to. Would you agree that is the pure decentralization?
Yes, okay. I agree with that, and I understand what you're saying.
Right, and versus the U.S. Fed, which is, it's all consolidated, centralized. You're saying Cardano somewhere in between.
Cardano is, in fact, one of the most decentralized blockchains out there, right? And in 2020, so prior to the 2021 peak of the last cycle, Cardano didn't have smart contracts yet. Cardano didn't have any of the use cases in place yet. All they had was staking. Okay, so if you were to ask me that question back then, what would happen to Charles? Well, I'm not quite sure. I'm sure he's laid out these roadmaps and they're working on all these studies to make sure that they're building the technology to head in this direction, but they're not there yet. And I don't know how important Charles's role is in that, right? The execution of all those things. Well, now we're basically we're getting to a point where we're working on Voltaire, which is the consensus voting algorithms within the whole blockchain. Once that is complete, Charles could go away because at that point, the treasury is decentralized. The decisions associated with the treasury, which I think is like $1.5 billion, I think, and growing. The
market cap of Cardano is what?
Oh God, I don't remember off the top of my head. 35 billion or something, maybe. I really don't remember off the top of my head. But I mean, it's substantial. I mean, it's in the top 10 or 11 right now.
Yeah.
Is it 20 billion? Okay.
20 billion.
So, but
who's the next biggest guy? I mean, Ethereum is 300 billion.
Sure.
I think it's grossly overvalued. I don't get it.
I'm not really an Ethereum bug. Ton, it's Telegram's token.
Yeah.
They just bumped up 2 days ago in the top 10. It's Telegram's token, yeah. So, but once we get to the point where Hydra, right? Because the TPS is a big thing for everybody, but most people don't even understand how the TPS works on Cardano.
What's Hydra?
Hydra is basically a system by which every node operator can run a Hydra node and impact the throughput of Cardano by 1,000 per node, or 1,000 transactions a second. Okay.
Increase.
So Hydra, you think of every node as a Hydra head, right? And like right now, let's just say hypothetically, Cardano's doing 20 TPS. Okay, I don't even know exactly what it is.
That's transactions
per second, right? So, but all other blockchains, that's what they are. If they say they're 20 transactions per second, that's pretty much what they are. And every data point is a transaction within that time frame. With Cardano, you can actually batch data points within a single transaction. So you can have a block, and then within that block have X number of transactions, but within every one of those transactions is a batch of additional data points and other transactions, right? So
like you compressing a bunch of images into a zip folder.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. And
I try to talk to the audience, right? So they understand what the heck we're talking about.
Oh, okay. Am I speaking?
No, but like it's good to me to like, hey, look, that's what he's talking about. It's compressing data.
Instead of having a suitcase and an empty suitcase by itself, you can have a suitcase full of clothes.
Correct.
And each one of those could be considered a transaction, even though one carries a lot more data, right? And so people often try to compare the TPS of this chain with this chain. And oftentimes when they're saying transactions per second, they're doing a whole bunch of stuff to fudge those numbers. Like these are minimal at best transactions in the grand scheme of things that mean absolutely nothing, okay? And so, but that is going to continue to be magnified over time as Hydra continues to take shape and develop. I'm a node operator. I have what's called the Crow node, right? And we're going to be a Hydra, node at some point. And I calculated it out.
Do you get paid?
I do.
For running the node?
Yeah, I mean, in a bear market, it costs me, I think, more than I make for sure. But I think I do maybe 600 or 700 ADA a block, or an epoch, I think, something like that. I have like 32 or 33 million ADA delegated to my node. At one point, it was like 60 something million. I had to set up a spillover node. It was towards the peak of the last market when everybody was jumping in and all of that. It got crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's passive, and it's just, I can see it pop in every so often. But when you look at the use cases of Cardano and its capabilities even now, as well as everything that's being developed and being finalized now, I would say, I don't want to say by the peak of this market, but we're going to get to a point where it's not going to need any leadership. It's going to run itself through consensus and voting, and basically the holders, like Project Catalyst, right? It's considered Cardano's venture capital arm. Charles, Cardano Foundation, Regard, none of those guys, they don't dictate or decide what projects get funded. The community does. The token
How big is that fund? Do you know?
It's different every cycle. I think, God, I can't remember. The last one might have been 12 million ADA or something like that. I can't remember exactly. I mean, that's not even counting the Treasury fund itself, which I think is like $1.5 billion. And that continues to grow. And they're building the systems now so that we can have a similar system for the Treasury and how that's utilized, similar to Project Catalyst. And so Catalyst is like the venture capital arm, but it's governed by the community itself. So people submit proposals, and then those are investigated and looked at and commented on, and then the public votes on what they think deserves the funding. And I think there are issues with the way that's running right now personally. I think there are some ways that people are using to game that system a bit, but I think at some point that should be fixed and adjusted properly. And especially prior to anything utilizing the Treasury funds. But that is decentralization, where when the chain operates itself and the progress of the chain is dictated by the community, not one leader, as you say. I don't look at Charles necessarily. He is, but he's not forever destined to be the leader of Cardano, in the sense that he is spearheading the development of what I consider is going to be an autonomous monster, right? And all he's doing is directing the development to make sure that the blockchain can utilize and be the foundational block of use cases in a community-driven ecosystem.
Is that a problem that he saw Bitcoin wasn't solving, and so he wanted to create? Like, how did these guys pop up? Because I mean, how did he pop up? And Vitalik, everyone was wanting to do something outside of Bitcoin for some reason, right?
Well, Charles Hoskinson, Vitalik Buterin, and Gavin Wood were all partners in creating Ethereum, right? And they had very different ideas. Okay, Vitalik was more kind of, as I understand it, more of this altruistic. We do everything for free to put something out there to the world. And Charles, as I understand it, had a very kind of a corporate idea as to, this should be monetized to an extent, have, business operations, managing it, building it out, and then sending it out to the people. And then Gavin Wood had his own thing, his own idea, which I think he started Polkadot. So they all kind of branched off into their own projects. And that's ultimately how it all started. They all had the similar kind of cyberpunk, mindset as it related to Bitcoin, but they thought there are better ways of doing this and integrating things like smart contracts and adding use cases to such a blockchain. And they all went about it a different way. Vitalik threw a bunch of stuff together and said, this is my blockchain, we'll fix it as we need. Gavin Wood started his, I consider Polkadot a little bit more of a niche blockchain. And then you've got Cardano, that took the academic approach to making sure that everything was right before they launch it, rather than throwing a bunch of shit to the wall and hoping something sticks and fixing any holes in the sinking ship over time. And that's one of the big complaints of Cardano, is that it takes a long time for things to come to fruition. Because even though they could do it today, they don't do it today. They'll do it tomorrow once they've done enough research and studies to make sure that it's going to be beneficial to the chain and to the community. That way they don't have to work backwards. And so, people in this culture of get rich quick and instant gratification, they want to see everything happen now. They want to see their wallets go up right now, as opposed to, and then, in that, they see it come right back down. Oh, there's a problem. Oh, the blockchain shut down. Oh, we found out this is more centralized than we thought. Oh, you can control MetaMask, geographically, and control who gets what, and they can shut down wallets, and just all the crazy stuff associated with some of these so-called centralized, like you said. I think that if you can control it incrementally by region or by any measure, really, then it's not as decentralized as we thought. And so these are all the challenges that a lot of these blockchains are facing. And Cardano's 3rd generation, and now Midnight's going to be 4th generation, where that's a whole other ballgame, So I personally, when I say I'm risk averse to a lot of the assets out there, I look at a lot of these assets as extremely risky. I might put $100 and maybe it goes to 1,000, but I could wake up the next day and it could be gone.
Right.
And I'm not with that. I don't care. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm not a greedy guy. I don't like to make greedy plays with things. I like to be very safe and as responsible as I can. And, I've watched Cardano develop since 2017, and I've seen where they've been, what they've accomplished, their milestones, their goals. They've missed some deadlines, things like that. But where we're at today with that as a blockchain is far surpassing the majority of the stuff out there. And I feel better about investing and being a part of an ecosystem that I know is making heavy strides into the future and where we're going to be likely by 2030, 2035, and so on, rather than continuing playing this lottery of what's going to be good and what's not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like Celsius Network is a key, element to that. I've met him several times. I've had him on my channel. I thought he was a great guy, voice over IP patent holder. He's like this big dog in telecoms who's going to come in and disrupt the financial world and stick it to the banks. And then look how that ended up.
Yeah,
right?
Well, the message there, dude. When someone's paying you 18% in a zero interest rate market, I don't care how cool he is. Okay, there's a problem.
You can't keep up with that.
No, it's impossible.
Mm-hmm. And he was doing a lot of really stupid stuff to try and keep up with that.
These guys are missing so many cool opportunities.
So many
by shortcutting this game.
Exactly.
It's so. Let's just bring it out here. Like Bitcoin has tripled in value in 6-7 months. Cardano, Ethereum have kind of like lagged. A couple of other ones have lagged. What's happening? Or why is it lagging?
Well, because
if I just look at the chart, right? If I just get out XRP, people want to argue with me on YouTube or something. I'm like, hey guys, look, I'm not here to argue with anyone. Okay,
Right.
The chart is telling me this entity is not performing relative to others. That doesn't mean it can't catch up.
Oh, and they will.
Maybe.
Yeah,
But right now,
I mean, look at the. You can look at any of these, whether it's Ethereum or Cardano. You can look at any of them against a Bitcoin as a base pair on historical charts. They all catch up and surpass Bitcoin, but they all come back down, right? And it is a cyclical thing.
You think that continues?
Oh, absolutely, I do.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, because in order.
So you think Bitcoin dominance, stays right here? It doesn't change?
No, I think Bitcoin dominance fluctuates. Every cycle it fluctuates. It peaks out, but typically Bitcoin peaks first. Like when I was talking about the on Twitter, I was like, oh, the market just peaked. It was April 13th and everybody thought I was nuts, right? And I talked about it being a 2-peak cycle, and it all ended up playing out the exact way. And the thing of it is you saw Bitcoin peak in April, and then you didn't see Cardano peak for a couple months after.
This is
in the 2021 peak. Right, but that's the way it plays out pretty regularly because people.
I think you're going to see a difference in Bitcoin dominance this time. Man.
We might, because there's a lot more institutional money going into maintaining that dominance at this point.
Exactly. The real money that's coming in here is not going into some of these other. It's not going into memes.
But if here's the thing though, and this is the way I've explained it on my channel before. I think definitely Bitcoin. This is the first time we've ever had a Bitcoin all-time high before a halving, right? So
things are changing.
Things are changing.
Yeah.
But what's also happening is you're going to see a lot of people that are not these institutions ride the wave of the institutional accumulation, and they're going to take their profits and they're going to put them into the altcoin market where they're going to be able to get a quick 10x towards the peak of a cycle. And we're going to see that more and more.
You think money like me is going to do that?
No, but you're a small fraction of the people that are buying into and accumulating any crypto asset. I mean, let's be real about it. Like, I'm on YouTube. I do pretty well. I've been in this since 2017. I'm not even, we have people that watch us for insight as to what's going on in the market because we've learned the systems and we do things differently. So we are kind of a guiding light to the general public that don't really know or understand how things work yet. Those are the people who are, oh, I've got some Bitcoin. It just went up this high. Everybody's saying the market peaked. But then I'm also seeing these narratives that the altcoin market's not done yet because now we have the altcoin season, right? So the altcoin season comes after Bitcoin. Until then, we just all kind of, the rising tides raise all ships. That's what happens. And it happens with Bitcoin first. So yeah, maybe the institutions aren't going to sell out of their Bitcoin and pump it into Cardano and Ethereum and other altcoins and so forth. But that's okay. Those are different animals altogether. And maybe you won't either. But what are you? 15% of the total market? Realistically. So everyone else that's learning, and on top of that, there are people that are in this space for different reasons. Some people are just in it for number go up. Some people are in it because they support the disruption of the current banking system. Everybody has their own narrative and their own interest. And there are tokens that kind of capitalize on those narratives for everyone. And so I'm big on decentralization. I'm big on people being able to make their own financial decisions, free of I bought too much red meat today and my card's being shut down or whatever. I don't want to have to deal with that. And so those are the key things that I'm most interested when it comes to blockchain. It's not just about making money for me. I could be doing so much better if I wanted to make other moves. Right? For me, it's about just everybody doing well and living in a new place where everything is transparent, decentralized. It's not at risk of any particular hack or otherwise. And that's what means something to me. And it means something to a lot of other people. And so if Bitcoin were to go to $100,000 tomorrow, how much higher can it go in this cycle? Maybe 150, maybe 200. So you're taking that. Let's just say it went up 5x.
Why does it matter if it's not about price?
It does matter to a certain extent, sure. But my point is that if you are buying into Bitcoin and you know that it's going to peak out maybe at a 5x in this cycle, and you know that the cycle's not over.
Why would I know that though? How would I know that?
I mean, it's okay. If I think where you're going with this is how everything is changing in this cycle.
I'm just asking the question.
How did I know that the market peaked in April? How did I know it was going to be a 2-peak cycle when nobody was talking about it?
You got it right once. Doesn't mean it's going to be right tomorrow.
Okay, that's true. I've got it right twice, but
look, if gold is really a $6 trillion market, just in gold,
sure,
you know, the money value thing, not jewelry, and Bitcoin's going to eat up Google, Nvidia, gold. I don't know how all these other altcoins continue to enjoy a 30, 50% market cap valuation.
It depends on their use case and their adoption based on those use cases.
There's hardly any use case in any of this shit. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But I always say, I look at the crypto space right now as a little toddler.
A little bit like MySpace, right? They had a use case and then they didn't. Right? They just got
okay, yeah, fair enough.
They got run over, man.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Like, I think Facebook is literally MySpace right now. We're seeing Facebook get crushed.
Yep.
Because it's not bringing value.
It does bring value, but I think it's a matter of what value does it provide over what price. And I think people are now seeing the actual price of being on the platform. And I think that's what's scaring most people. And people that support, everything is narrative based nowadays. Everything's a story. So do you value the story of Zuckerberg and everything that he's done over the past however many years? Do you like the fact that you've got all of this information, this personal information about you basically being shelled out to advertisers and who knows what? Do you like the idea of your messenger app or whatever basically listening to you so they can channel these ads that are specifically focused? If I talked about dog poop right now, by the time we're on our way home, my phone will tell the algorithms he's interested in dog poop, so let's send him some dog poop scooper ads, right? So that's the payoff. That's the cost, the price. So,
but that's the same analogy on Bitcoin. I hear people looking at Bitcoin going, why would I pay $70,000 for Bitcoin? I'm going to go buy this meme. I'm going to use Facebook because it's free. Mm-hmm. I don't really care about I'm not even going to talk about my privacy because free is more important to me than privacy, right? And then they go buy a coin that's underperforming without hey, how's this going to get rolled out? Not all these 20,000 coins are going to survive. It's just
absolutely
too much,
not.
Right?
Only the cream is going to rise to the top, and that's what every market cycle does, is it shakes that out. And you can very much look at it as like gold sifting, right? You just take this big pile of rocks and stone and you're sifting through it and you're looking for the little shiny pebbles. And that's ultimately what the market does. And that's a part of why I believe these cycles were programmed the way they were. And, every cycle we see the cream rise to the top, and we don't always have the top earners or the top gainers of the previous cycle make an appearance in the next one. But that's the difference in use case. You brought up XRP, right? You've got XRP and then you've got Stellar Lumens. You've got your more centralized system for remittance and whatnot, and then you've got your more decentralized focused one. They both ultimately, as I understand it, kind of do similar things, but one's more decentralized than the other. Neither of them are doing phenomenally well, partly because of the involvement with the court cases and all of that. Now, I stopped paying all that much attention to XRP because I think that there are bigger things out there. But, I'm not an institutional guy in that sense, right? I'm more of the guy that's about use case and what are we actually going to use this for? What's the reach of that use case? That sort of thing. But I don't think XRP is going to 10 grand. And
how many institutional investors are there in Cardano? Like, I don't think there are many institutional investors in Bitcoin, but it'd be interesting to think, hey, what's the institutional investment thesis into the Cardano platform?
I really don't know. I won't even try to make
up.
Do
you think that it will ever be a part of the ETF, and would you want Cardano part of the ETF?
That's a real good question, and it's something I think about often. I mean,
do you think the ETF's good for Bitcoin or bad?
To be real honest with you, I don't. I think it's bad.
Yeah.
I think it's bad.
I would think so, because it's diluting the decentralized nature, right?
Exactly.
That's just a fact. But see, I think all the money's already decentralized. It's coming from centralized. So most of the money on the planet's already centralized. It's not like...
I think a part of the terminology between centralized and decentralized is the amount of control over its use. And
this is the point I'm trying to make. The conflation that occurs in the digital asset world, I find amazing. And by conflation, I mean comparing A against E, and saying, hey, these are the same things. For instance, I'm with a 50-year-old lady the other night, and she has bought 2 Bitcoin at $1,000, sold them. I'm like, well, first off, your thesis was fucked up, dude. You bought 2 Bitcoin at $1,000. First off, you should have bought 10, because if you could buy 2, you could buy 10 at $1,000, and then you sold them. So your thesis is completely something broke down. Secondly, you just told me that you have $500,000 that you want to stick into my brother's real estate, and I looked at you and went, why wouldn't you take that $500,000 and stick it into Bitcoin? And she's like, I need to self-custody it. I'm like, dude, you're not self-custodying my brother's real estate. You don't self-custody the car you drove here in. You don't self-custody your home. This home is not self-custody by me. The bank owns this fucking home, okay? If I don't pay the taxes, they're gonna come take it.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff I don't self-custody. I think this is the problem the Bitcoiner digital asset guys have not understood. Like, dude, for you to tell me that not my keys, not mine, I have to look at 80% of my worth is all trapped in these assets.
But
that
that's
are
kind
centralized.
that's kind of the point, though, isn't it? That's kind of why we're in crypto. It's to disrupt the nature of that.
There's no banks ever stolen any money from me.
Yeah. Me either that I know of. But
Right now.
outside of crazy fees.
It does happen, and fiat all collapses. The question is do I really think the U.S. dollar is going to collapse tomorrow morning? No chance, dude. And if it does, we have big problems. And it ain't Bitcoin or Cardano. We're at war. We're in a depression. We're literally civil war shooting at each other if the U.S. dollar collapses tomorrow morning. Now, it will collapse one day.
We're getting closer by the day.
Yeah, it can last a long time, dude. When you can print, when you can do this.
And they're doing it.
There's no way for you to measure how long that can go on. I mean, have you ever known a heroin addict? I mean, a real heroin addict?
No.
They can last for a long time. They can last for a long time.
Okay, I'll take your word on it.
They either go into full rehab or they die at some point. But the problem is they can last for a long. If you just keep giving them drips, you know, whether they're functional or not. Like we're watching the U.S. dollar. Oh, it's dysfunctional at this point. It can go on for a long time, man.
True.
So why would I be, if I'm a big investor in Bitcoin and I have a few other little, like I've got some Bitcoin miners, I think it's a horrible investment.
Yeah, I had a co-located facility in Siberia for a minute and it was worthless.
No, I just own the miners.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine actually having a mine.
We had hundreds of them, and it was just not. I did a whole bunch of calculations, and I basically showed you're better off just buying the Bitcoin and holding it than buying equipment to mine it.
Buy Bitcoin, hold it, and no capital costs. You don't have to wait.
Right.
You don't have any employees, no headaches, no regulatory risk, no Elizabeth Warren saying I'm going to tax you.
Right.
It's impossible. Why would I own Cardano?
Well, like I said,
like if I'm into value, see, I'm trying to protect my kids. So I'm into value. I'm into 3 to 8 year holds. I can do real estate that makes me about 12% a year. I don't have to do anything, right? I don't have to do anything.
Okay, well, I mean, simple answer is 2 cents to $3 in 6 months when it wasn't even done. I mean, you talk about value. Well, use case potential, developmental milestones, and technology drive the overall interest in a project, right? And, when you're talking about what matters to most people, like I say, it's all narrative driven, but there are facts related to some of those narratives depending on where they're coming from. And I've personally watched, my very first Cardano video was when I basically announced to the world that I was bullish on this, and nobody knew anything about Cardano back then. I was like the only YouTuber that was coming out like, listen, I've read all of this boring shit. I went through all of this stuff, reading a bunch of stuff I didn't know. I have literally forgotten more about Cardano technically than most people are probably going to learn in the next 5 years. And I fell in love with it, and I understood what they were building and why, and everything just really resonated and clicked with me. And I think my first entry into it at the time, I think it was 33 cents, and it went up, peaked out at like $1.33 that cycle and came all the way back down. Then I was accumulating more around like 10 to 2 cents where it bottomed. And it just slowly moved forward and then shot up to $3.14 in about 6 months, right? And everybody's like, why? Well, because it's making advancements in the technology and people are starting to understand it. Now, this will be the first market cycle where we have smart contracts. We have, I think there are over 3,000 nodes out there now. I haven't checked recently. I think it's somewhere around 3,000. It might be 3,500 node operators to date. Millions
compares to Bitcoin node operators at what?
I mean, I have no idea.
I mean, I don't know the.
I don't know. I
don't know if 3,500 is a lot or, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's kind of a lot. Yeah. I mean, I think at the last cycle when, in 2021, all we had was basically staking. And I think we peaked out somewhere around 2,000, maybe 2,300 nodes. We have almost probably 1,000 or more now. And we're nowhere close to the peak yet. So adoption is coming, and it's coming to the blockchain as more people are starting to understand the technology behind it and the why. That's the thing. It's the why. It's what are these real use cases, and how does a transparent, more decentralized, high throughput scalability is going to continue expanding exponentially, I'm sure, at some point. And interoperability is a big key thing. The ability to function with this blockchain and that one and that one and that one, right? Becoming a hub, right? And these are just some of the things that Cardano's been designed to do. And we didn't have any of this in 2021. And so now we have all of these things. We're in the final stages of Voltaire, which is the whole voting and all of that. And so you say, why would I get into Cardano now? Because if we can go from 2 cents to $3, you're just strictly financially, if you can go from 2 cents to $3 in a matter of like 6 months or 9 months, whatever it was, based off of it just having staking, what do you think is going to happen now with like millions of tokens, NFTs, memes, real world use cases, World Mobile Token, Cornucopias building what I think is going to be the biggest, baddest metaverse platform out there that's already, I think, just capitalizing on, what I consider to be some of the shortcomings of like Sand and Decentraland, which Decentraland is cool. They're cool, right? Yeah, but they're more niche.
I think I own some of that.
Yeah, and I do too. I've had like 6,000 of those for 6 years. But there's just so much happening, and the use cases that are being developed for Cardano, look into World Mobile Token and what they're doing. I think you might be surprised if you're not familiar with it yet. Look into Cornucopias if you're into the Web3 world. There's a lot of assets out there that are being built. And they take time because they're real use cases. They're real world applications that are being built for real reasons on a global scale, as opposed to, this blockchain. Well, maybe it did go 400% up over the last 6 months and it looks like a real winner, but a lot of it is bullshit, wash trading. It's all manipulation. It's centrally owned. It's all
who's
memes.
Manipulating it?
Well, I mean, without being very, very specific, what we have. So one of the things that Cardano doesn't have that a lot of these others do.
It's not Wall Street manipulating.
No.
Right?
No.
Wall Street
Typically, it's the venture capitalist groups that launch it.
Wall Street is not manipulating Cardano
right
now.
I don't think so, no.
It's someone else.
Well, nobody's manipulating Cardano. That's the point. A lot of these projects.
You said there was manipulation.
There is in competing blockchains, lesser technologies, we see it often, and a lot of that is spearheaded by the venture capital groups that are in early, and they're doing all sorts of different things to play those. A lot of paid advertisements.
Well, that's criminal.
Yeah, well,
that's just criminal. But the manipulation piece, look, I think you're going to find manipulation in every market.
I agree with you.
The way you define it, like it's a definition, right? If I'm trading, my job is to arbitrage the market.
Sure.
And you leave a big old gap in it, dude, I'm going to spank it like a little baby, okay? It's just what happens. It's not manipulation. It's, hey, there's a gap there. I don't think that's the way markets work.
I get that. There's a difference to me between, your typical trading, even if you're algorithmically trading something, that's I do that. I have my own bot. I do that all the time. I love it. It's like treasure hunting, right?
Well, that actually brings me like on the cycles, because the manipulation is really so hard. But if you believe these cycles have this process, when's the when's the peak moment going to be? When do we get? Is it 18 months? Is it?
I mean, typically it's 2 years bear, 2 years bull, right?
Yeah.
And I think that what happens
Cardano
is an
does
exhaustion.
what at the peak? In 2 years, 18 months to 2 years.
I've done multiple calculations. I can even send you the videos. I've done multiple calculations in completely different ways at completely different points of time, where I've already forgotten about this one and I'm working on this concept. And I always hit on $8 at the peak of the cycle.
And it's trading at what?
Right now it's like 56 cents because the market's been pulling back a little bit more.
56 cents. So that's $20 billion. So you're saying it does a 16x. So it's $220 billion market cap. What does that make Ethereum? Or does Ethereum do nothing? It just sits here.
No, I think Ethereum, like I said, everything goes up. Everything is going to go up. Even the shittiest shit coins.
You think we're down 15 to 16x?
I believe it will. Yeah.
What does Bitcoin do relative to that? You think from here?
Honestly, the last time I looked at Bitcoin's price, and I'm trying to remember what I was calculating out, but I saw it somewhere around 250, which sounds crazy to some people.
68 goes 4x. Cardano goes 15x. Interesting.
But we see that pretty consistently every cycle.
Yeah.
Now, the caveat to that, obviously, is how does this institutional influx change things? But I think ultimately...
You agree the institutions are not going to be buying Cardano?
We don't know that yet.
Maybe. I do think this could be slightly different. You have inflows of money that we've never seen before, man.
Right.
Because I actually think it's my kind of money coming in here. It's not coming in for 12 days, man. It's not going to be trading meme coins. It's coming in for 4 years. And when they see the return, they're going to start looking at the other stuff they have in their portfolios. But I have this thesis that says all wealthy people are already max invested in everything. They have bought everything they can possibly buy. Villas, cars, Rolex watches, fancy shoes, fancy watch, prostitutes, villas, land, farm. Dude, they're maxed out. And guess what most of those assets do? Real estate produces income. That income's going to buy Bitcoin. Literally, the old legacy assets are going to fuel investment into Bitcoin because they're not going to. I don't need any more apartment buildings, dude. I'm so loaded up here. I got commercial. I've got 3 airplanes. People buy $60 million airplanes 15,000 times every 4 years, man. Right. $60 million.
It's all a write-off.
1,000 Bitcoin. Total write-off, right?
I mean, there are reasons why they're doing that. Not necessarily because they like to fly.
No, they're flying.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing a lot of business, right? It's not just they're sitting on an airplane. I mean, so I just think that we don't understand this kind of money.
Right. Well,
we've never really seen this kind of money until Saylor showed up, right? I just think it could be, if it's ever going to be different, we're getting ready to find out.
I agree.
I would say in the next 12 months, we will know where these ratios, if the ratios hold, I would bet against it, man. I mean, I'm willing to be wrong. I don't need to be right. I need to be happy and rich. And independent, be able to say yes and no. I don't need to be right.
I think regardless of what direction that plays out, we'll both be fine. We'll put it that way. Because, to what extent does this? Well,
I'm a hustler. I'm gonna be okay if Bitcoin goes to zero.
Well, I'm sure you'll be fine too.
So, that's the way you have to set this up. I mean, I was just on a call with somebody, and they said, "Dude, you're like, well, why would you be so bullish at your age?" And I'm like, how could I not bet behind a thesis that I have secured, and I'm fundamentally have yet to meet one human being that can get me off my viewpoint. Like, I have to invest everything into that thesis.
Sure.
Like, you don't want to wake up 3 years from now and go, wow, I knew it, but I didn't have the balls to pull the trigger. That's horrible, man.
Exactly.
Not if you're...
my wife and I had that same conversation like a year ago.
If you're working for a big corporation, you don't care. If you're working for you and her, your family, like, you're going to be a little girl, dude. She should embarrass you in 3 years going, dude, you didn't have the balls to, like, lock and load on something that like, you've done every bit of work you can possibly do. And if the CIA comes in and pulls the old rugger on it, okay, good. then I lost. But that's the only way this trade goes bad.
Back in the last cycle, Bitcoin was trading around $8,000, and I think Cardano was somewhere around the 2 cent mark. And I was able to buy, it was like 430,000 Cardano for 1 Bitcoin, and I didn't do it. And I should have bought a few worth, and I didn't do it. And that was before it went up to $3. And
yeah, 2 cents though, it's a lottery ticket.
Yeah. And
right. I mean, that's a.
Well, and it was.
I would agree with that also.
This was after I already believed in ADA.
Yeah.
But psychologically, it's like a mind game.
Yeah, no,
right? Like you're sitting here, 16x. Wow, that sounds really crazy. Market cap would have to be that. A lot of people use market capitalization. Market capitalization is dictated by what's available on the market at the price that last sold, right? Like the market cap could be $10 trillion. It just depends on what.
Market cap is better than dollar per coin.
But it's dictated by it.
It gives you. I can compare market cap against Nvidia's market cap, Sony, Google. I can't compare.
I think it's a little bit of a different animal. I mean, to some extent, I think it's a little. I get what you're saying. I think it's a little bit of a different animal in crypto, though, especially when the majority of an asset is locked up for one reason or another, or it's just not available as liquid supply on an exchange, and then that price is dictated by what the order books are. And if the supply is low and the demand is high, that market cap is going to skyrocket. It's going to create more sell pressure, which could balance things out at a certain point. But, I think too many people focus on market cap. Well, the market cap would have to be some astronomical number that I can't see. But, if you look at it cycle to cycle, the market caps always surpass what the majority of people expect them to reach anyway.
Well, this is what we're going to do, because I think the market cap conversation is really fascinating. Market cap versus dollar per coin. I would love to have another conversation on market cap, because I think I can actually convince you that's the way institutions will look at this.
Sure.
They'll compare it to a NVIDIA and go, hey, how do I see this? They'll compare it to any kind of technology that's even maybe an X. But once you start doing that, you're going to start comparing, hey, why is ExxonMobil only at 11? 11X. There is no Cardano, there's no Bitcoin, there's no nothing without ExxonMobil, and it's trading at this super discounted premium. I think you're going to see the legacy energy companies trading at really low multiples move into Bitcoin because it will expand their multiple, dude. Their multiples. Saudi Aramco's multiple is 14 at $3.5 trillion. Bitcoin has to take out Saudi Aramco. Once Bitcoin takes out Saudi Aramco, it then aims at gold. Whoa, you just hit energy, largest energy player in the world. Then you hit gold. People are going to start correlating gold and energy, going, there is no Bitcoin without energy. Why are we discounting these fossil fuel players? Like it's very interesting. So I think it's a different discussion. It's a good hour and a half, and probably get some market players in here to talk about that. But I like the conversation. I'll do some study on ADA, and
just look into it.
I look forward to having a conversation in like 6 months with you. Start to look at the 16 market down, 15 to 16 to 1.
Okay.
I think that's fascinating. And if it ever hits 2 again, you need to call me.
Hits what?
2 cents.
Yeah.
To me, the question is, would I buy at 56 right now? Like, because I can't buy it at 2. Buying at 2 is different.
Yeah, that was like a once in a,
Yeah. Hey, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.